Hi, yes, your friend SB here. Today we've got a bit of a discussion video. So for that I'm going to pull up the doggo. Here I am, 1-1. So today I wanted to talk a bit about tuning. Of course I've got many videos on the channel so far that are about tuning. But I want to talk about the current design and state of tuning, as well as what I would hope for in the future. So it's a bit of a critique and review of tuning, how it is in the game as we know it. So to begin with, I want to ask the question to you. Also, this is going to be a fairly unedited video just because it's quite a lot of length and I don't really enjoy editing because it's just time consuming and payoff isn't enough. I don't have as much time as I would like in my life. So in the current state of the game, what is Ultra Rumble? What is MHUR Ultra Rumble? It is, of course, a battle royale. You jump in as a team of 3, and you want to be the last team standing. And we see this in like games like Fortnite, I guess. I haven't played Fortnite. Apex, I played a bit of Apex. It's a bit more like Apex, so that's more about the trio dynamic. But it also has features of a hero shooter, as you would find in games like Overwatch and, of course, Marvel Rivals, which is the new one everyone seems to enjoy. I am personally an Overwatch fan. And it has elements like that because all of the characters in the game play in a very unique way. It's different from Apex, where the general gameplay is very similar. But everyone has guns, but every character also has elements that make them feel a bit more unique. But now, in this game, it's more like a hero shooter because, you know, every character has a completely different kit. The only things they have in similar, like even like melees, even these are different. Because like, yeah, every character has a quick melee, but the animation is very different, range, you know, everything is so significantly different from each other. Like, boom, slide. This is so much different from like Bakugo's melee. So I would say that this game has elements of a hero shooter in it. And of course, it's not just that, it also is like an RPG. Because it has, of course, you know, levels and such. Level up your skills, they hit harder. And one of the extensions of that RPG system is what tuning is. Because in a action RPG, you might have like equipment, or like in an MMO or something. You have equipment that you can put onto your characters and that will give you stat buffs. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a game that recently released and I've been greatly enjoying that. It's my favorite of the Xenoblade games. And that has a very similar ground gear system, in which you go to the shop, you can buy equipment, and it also has something like the overlay, it's called fashion gear, where you can put on outfits that you actually like the look of over the top of your gear that gives you the stats. It's very similar in that way, especially in that game. A lot of costumes for the gear that you would want the stats from look extremely ugly, so of course you want to replace that where you can. So tuning is very much like that. It took them a while to get to the overlay part of it, but that's how it is. But it also is this game's take on a perk system. Let's talk more about Overwatch and Apex. These games have a perk system. Every time you level up in those games, something pops up on your screen that says you can go for option A or option B, and depending on your option, it's a new ability that enhances your character in some way. That is a perk system. In Marvel Rivals, we also have something similar to that, in which you have like team up things. If you have 2 characters on the same team and they have that synergy, then they both gain some sort of benefit from it. That is, I guess, like a perk system, but it changes the way that the game is played based on an external factor, right? So tuning is just another sort of perk system, and I think it's a very smart way of doing it, because in the examples of Apex Overwatch, you have to create perks for every single character in the game, whereas in this case, you only need to worry about Like you only need to have like the core system, and now it applies to every single character in the game. All of these equipments can be put on any character. I can go on to Bakugo, I can use the exact same equipment there. Right? So it's a very efficient system, especially for a very overworked dev team that have to meet deadlines. And it also makes sense for a very gacha-oriented sort of game, especially as an economic system, right? Because, you know, you get costumes through the gacha. So, like, I can get all of these Aizawa costumes. It even gives me a preview of all of the tuning you can equip. And so that's just that. It's linking how the game makes its money with the gameplay. So I think it's a very smart way of introducing it. But the main problem of this sort of perk system is that it is difficult to balance, especially there's different levels of impact on the game. So in Overwatch, if I'm playing a certain character, these perks that they've created for these characters are fine-tuned, specifically for this character, and if they think that something is overpowered, then they can nerf it. If they think it's underpowered, they can buff it. And it will exclusively affect that one character. Whereas in a game like this, if I go onto a certain build, then I can equip something like Sisterly Disposition. This is a very high impact skill. It changes a lot of how the game works. I get a melee and I take half damage. And that is definitely the hot topic right now. This one particular skill has too much impact on the game. There was a blog post at the back of the start of the year where they talked about how they want to balance tuning. If they say that if a character and a certain skill has too great synergy, or they are too powerful when put together, then they will consider nerfing it. And I would make the argument that that is always going to be the case, as long as tuning has too much impact. There's always going to be characters that have a lot of synergy. Momo has a lot of melee skills. You can get Cicely. Mountain Lady, especially if we go down to, I believe it was this costume here. It has a yellow slot, it has a green slot. And so people are going to go Sisterly Disposition and Revenge Support. And they're going to combine that together, and that has basically become one of the only meta builds on Mountain Lady. She is carried by Sisterly Disposition. And it makes sense because you can link a lot of melee attacks into her general game plan, whether it be small or big. And that's just how the synergy works in that case. If there are strong skills in the game, then certain characters will benefit more than others. And I think the only solution is just to make it very mild benefits, right? Especially because why would you go for any other costume other than this one? I mean, I know a guy who uses this build here, and he goes Electrification, and it makes my game lag every time he's in my lobbies because he goes Giant Mountain Lady with Electrification, and maybe that's his game plan, just to lag everyone out. Hard to say. But generally there is going to be like a best outfit, and I don't think that is what you would want in a perk system. You don't want a hard meta in perks, you want it to be more preferential depending on the player and what they like to do. That is one of the strengths of the hero shooters. I really like hero shooters as a genre. So all of these characters bring something new to the table. People don't want to be playing the same 3 characters every game they play. Everyone has different preferences, especially now we have crossplay where we're linking the PC people and the console people together. We have very different ways of controlling our characters. We don't have access to the same capabilities. And so having more variance on character is going to be important. I also think tuning can make it possible to shape your character in the way that you want. So of course I would play Deku as a very like alpha heavy character. On my common Deku build, I'm going, triple alpha all the time because that's how I like to play it. But then you can go for something else. Here's my meme build I was thinking of creating, which is very like beta oriented. I can actually put another Shinso in now. And that's just like a different way of playing the same character. Now, instead of being alpha oriented, I can now be beta oriented, and I think that's a very clever way of making your character playstyle feel different, which is going to be far more apparent because of the different kinds of people playing the game. The main problem is that tuning kind of sucks because it is rushed and it is incomplete. There was not enough consideration. There's a lot of skills that are very bugged. Like, tuning was released in Season 8. We're now in Season 10. And certain skills, like, again, if I go back to this build, high speed replenishment, I have it at level 1 because that's all I need to do because of the bug that makes it so that it is active for the entire game, even though the core purpose of this skill is to make it for a set amount of time after the battle begins, and leveling up increases the effect time. It is as good as level 11 while it is level 1 because it's bugged, and it has been for 2 seasons. So they've put it out in this state, which should not have been a very hard bug to find, and it has remained in that state, and they have not gone back and fixed it. And a lot of the benefits that you get as well, with these like attack damage skills, level 3, this skill will give me a 2% increase. This also gives me a 2% increase in defense. Well, I mean, technically, defense isn't a stat. It's not a real stat. Actually, take 0.98 of regular damage. I digress. But then you have like max GP and max HP, which give you a very pitiful 1, 2, 3 extra HP or GP, which is negligible. So we have the few relatively good skills, and we have some negligible skills, including reload, because these also give 2% at level 3. And 2% reload speed is a very small amount. Also, side tangent, people don't understand what reload speed is. It's not the same as cooldown reduction. It's sort of like a mathematical inverse. If you have a plus 100% reload speed, that does not mean you have 0 cooldown. That means it takes half the amount of time. It is the speed in which that little progression bar goes from 0 to 100. Right? That's what reload speed is. It's not what is the cooldown of this skill, how much are we reducing it by. It's not that. If you want, you can think of it in terms of, let's say, I have a skill that has a 10-second cooldown. If I have 5% reload speed, then I can use that skill 5% more if I keep spamming it. It's hard to explain. Let's make it 10%. So let's say I use that skill 100 times. With that 10% reload speed, I will get another 10 times usage in the time it takes me to do it normally without the skill. Right, I'm gonna exit this tangent now because I'm sure I'm not explaining it very well. And, I don't want to make more work for myself. And then there are the skills that simply do not work. If I go back to my Bakugo build, I have certain skills. I have beta here. I play a strike Bakugo. If I have beta attack, it will not do anything. So I'm going to go to this lovely website, which is ultradojo.com. Everyone please use it. There's me in the credits. If I go to a certain character, I can see in here, note, does not benefit from beta damage plus. You can see every skill in the game that is bugged and does not work. So if I have, let's say 82 damage alpha, I add some alpha damage up, so Derby, it now becomes 84. It's gone up by 2. If I go to beta, it's 95. I'm going to add Denki, still 95. So Cody has purposely not included that into the calculation because it wouldn't work. That's what the note says. There are certain characters that would be ridiculous if it did work. So if we find Crazy Torch Derby, we can see his beta, his grab, does not benefit from beta damage, does not benefit. His grab does not do any additional damage from having beta skills. And that's not a very popular skill, so we're in luck. If I go to Momo, if I go to the Gamma ability, so the Cannon Shot does not benefit from Gamma Damage Plus. Again, it doesn't work. And I imagine it would be a much bigger problem if a Momo had like triple Gamma skills in your game, shooting cannons at you and immediately blowing you up. That would be a problem, and we're kind of lucky that it doesn't work that way. And it would have been great if this was actually tested to make sure that doesn't work. Other skills that don't work, dash speed doesn't work. Including wall shuffle speed. Forward jump height does work, but it's another negligible difference. What I think will happen is that when Season 8 released, we actually had a file that showed all of the increments for each toon. And the JSON file that I have on the internal database is different than the values being used in the master data. The master data comes from the server. When you're on the game, you're actually pulling the numbers from the master data. That is the priority, so whatever is in the internal files doesn't actually matter. But we could see that the numbers were significantly different. And I think there was actually an attempt to balance it at that point in time. And then when it released, they said, okay, let's turn it all down. We're not finished with it. We don't want to have too much impact. Let's tune it all down. And hopefully we can fix it again later. I feel like that's what they've done in many cases. We need to get this out by the deadline. Let's just turn it down and we'll fix it later. 2 seasons have passed. And in the current season, we still don't have it. So we're going to have to wait another 3rd season until hopefully we can see some changes. I'm hoping that in season 11 we will start seeing changes, because Vikings team in April, which is today's April 1st, has gotten bigger probably. They say that in April they were going to have 20 new employees. There's like 10 programmers, 5 designers, 5 planners. I think that's what it was. That was the distribution. So hopefully that means they'll be working more on Ultra Rumble and they can get these things fixed up. We just had crossplay release. That was one of the things they've been working on for a very long time. I think now they're going to have more freedom to work on things a bit better. And so they can go back to tuning and they can fix it. And that is why I wanted to get this video out in time so I can get my foot in the door, so I can say, hey, these are the changes I would like to see. So I am going to tell you now about the changes that I would like to see. I'm gonna stay in a menu because I don't want someone talking to me. So I'm going to go back to this page. I'm going to go to ultrarumble.com, the website made by Hydros, which is very good. If you go to the tuning tab, you can see all of the values. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Here are the numbers that are used to, so you can know what benefits you're getting from what skills. These are pulled from the master data, so these are always accurate. For some reason, Hydros has access to the master data. Don't know how, he's a wizard. If I go to special slots as well, I can also see what each one is worth. And there is a trend in every single one of these, which is, let's go look at Coder Finder. 60, 56, 52, 48, 44, 24. That is a massive jump from level 5 to level 6. And do you know why it is that way? Well, we're going to go back to the game again. Here is a tuning that, let me go to one that does have everything filled out. The maximum level I can get here is level 4. Max is here level 3. If I go to this one, it also says 3 and 4, but I can get 1 max level, so that would become 4 and 5. Let's go to a character that I do have that max out on. Let's go to All Might. This is level 4, this is level 5. I took a skill off because I was testing something. Let me get another example. Go to Shigaraki. Yeah. Level 4, level 5. So level 5 is the maximum level you can get because this is an SR costume. Meaning the levels go slightly higher than an R rarity costume. You can see 1 star, 2 stars, 1 star, 2 star. And then everything else goes up even higher. So now this starts at level 6. And this starts at level 7. If I go to a character that I have maxed out on, max is level 10, max is level 11. Right? So the reason why it spikes up at level 5 to 6 is because that is the point in which you can start getting skills with only exclusively from plus ultra rarity costumes, making PUR costumes feel significantly better than anything below it. I think that sucks. I think that is bad. I think it is a bad idea to make the power scaling so significantly different for PUR costumes, especially considering the impact it already has on the game is far too much. So I've created a bit of a new system, new trend, which I will go over shortly. There was something that was on my mind just now. Let's see if I can remember it. Doop-a-doop. Nope. Story brain. Shutting down. Unfortunately, this is a thing that frequently happens to me. Yeah. I'm gonna carry on. I do have notes. Do I have something in my notes here? No. Before I continue, actually, there is something in my notes we're talking about. Is that if you have multiple skills that have the same name, Alpha Attack Plus, Alpha Attack Plus, Alpha Attack Plus, then you get an exponential damage increase. You go from 2% to 6% to 15% increase because I have 3 of the same thing. And that is ridiculous. I don't like that. That should be taken out of the game. I also think that it should not be multiplicit. I think it should be additional, meaning that 2 to 4% to 6%. That is how it should work. If you go to reload skills, it is not exponential. It is still multiplicit, but because it doesn't have that exponential increase, you're not seeing a massive difference based on if you have if you're stacking multiple with the same name, right? If you happen to have, let's see if I can find one. Find an example. Yeah, we've got Endeavor here. This is HP, attack power. If you stack this and this, it is not an exponential boost, but it is still stacking a little bit multiplicitly. So essentially you're getting about 4% increase rather than 6% if they were the same name. So it exclusively applies to things of the same name, which is an interesting difference. But if that was the case already, then we can see what that would be like in action. If I went into training mode with this on, you would see. Let's see if I have the time to do it. I do have the costume on. I didn't bother to apply the tuning effect. I generally do not care for the layered thing. I mean, of course, it's great that some people have it. But I like to look like what I'm feeling. You know, I like to actually communicate that information. That's how I would prefer to play it. If I could, I would turn off layered, so then you can always see it. So on this costume, I've got 1 Bakugo and I've got 1 Endeavor. So instead of getting a 6% increase, if I get my Alpha to level 9 and do a crouch shot, it will always do it always does 100 base damage, which is very nice for making comparisons. So 1 skill. Let's also like to do these. Because it's on shield, it's 102 damage. If I take Master Shield and then do it again, it's going to be about 104. It might be even 105 because it rounds up. There we go. 105 damage. So that's just the way that works. If I had 2 alpha skills, then that would have been 106. I think, actually no, it would be 100%. 107 damage. Sorry, it would have been a slightly greater increase and a noticeable increase. So now I'm going to go to my spreadsheet and I'm going to tell you about my take on tuning. Special skills. So I've gone through every single skill in the game and I've changed the way that it works. And I will also cross-reference with this page up here. We're going to focus on Strike for now. So let's start off with Coda Finder. At level 11, you get 0-second delay. That's what that means. It's a 0-second delay. You kind of need to know the context as to how it works. So 0-second delay means that as soon as the game starts, Coda will spawn. And so with mine, I've said, let's make it 40 seconds. 40 seconds is the point in the game in which the first ring starts to close. And I think that's a good checkpoint as to say when things should activate. That's a good, we already have a marker there. Let's just reuse that marker. And that way, for that first 40 seconds, people can do their early game looting and they can find Coda. Because having Coda Finder at 0 seconds and then immediately knowing where Coda is means that there is no more searching for Coda element to it. Of course, people don't necessarily run this skill anymore, so there's always going to be a greater chance that he goes unfound, and there is actually a bit of a search for him, and people should be knowing where all of the spawns are. I do know all the spawns. I've got a map for it, which was using data mined information, because I'm clever like that, woof woof. But that's how that works. Also, I would like to tell you about the presentation of the level scaling. In the in-game level scaling, we can see that there was just a spike from level 5 to 6, and that's the only real pattern that we see. We have mild values, boom, level 6, much greater values. And with my design, I've gone for a spike at level 4, so 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and 10 to 11. With the first few ones being just a few mild skills. If I go back to the game again, I can show you an example. So we've got these types of tuning upgrade currencies. And these ones, there's usually enough. We usually have enough. That makes the first few levels feel relatively free. And then because the max is level 3, it means that we won't get that first spike, but level 4 will get that first spike. So there is some uniqueness about the right side slot. I should also say, because I forgot to say this, this is an important assumption for the system, is that currently it says unlock by setting the 5 left slots, unlock by setting the 5 right slots, meaning that you can't slot anything here unless you first unlock everything. You have to like spend all the keys to get all of this. If you have a plus ultra rarity build, then you will have to get max aura before you can even use this right slot. I think that is really bad because it affects the functionalities of the skill. It means like having the special slot is so important, right? Because that is a big part of the strategy. So any build that is below incomplete, in like if it's below max aura, then you shouldn't use it. So I would say remove this requirement. I can equip these slots right away. And by getting this slot here, it increases the maximum level. If I go to a PUR costume, it starts off at level 7, level 8. I already have one slot there, so that's why it says that. Do I have any other examples? Okay, I don't have any aura here. Starts at level 6, level 7. And so the first 4 auras I get will get that to level 10 and level 11. Meaning that there are benefits to actually unlocking these things because these numbers can go higher. But as it stands, increasing the maximum level only affects the left slot because you can't even use the right slot until you've already unlocked everything. So the fact that this goes up with every level is absolutely meaningless. You will never be able to use this skill. The maximum level going up makes no difference because you can't even use it until everything is maxed. So I would remove the requirement. You can use it right away, and now the increasing the maximum level actually makes some sense. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. So the reason why I've got a spike level 4 and 5 is because those are the right slots for the R 1-star build and the SR 2-star build, and from 10 to 11 because that is the right side of the PUR 3-star build. That's why I've made that decision. Okay, so now let's continue to crushing PU. I've got this time 2 different parameters. If you look at how the skills are now, there's one skill, one value that changes every single level with one sub effect. There is only one value that changes. If in the game we can see, if I go to a character's information, skill details, perk skill, we can see how everything changes per level, and at some levels you get multiple benefits. This should apply to tuning as well, or at least that there's multiple variables here. I've been talking for a long time. Pacing is not as good as I would like, but whatever. So I will take this trend in my sheet and say that I'm going to use multiple variables because then I have better control over the balance. In the case of crushing PU, which is fills up your PU PC gauge when you KO opponents. So when you KO someone, you get more plus ultra. A bar goes up. The number here is a bit confusing, but essentially means 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 15%, 16%, 17%, 18%, 19%, 20% for getting a KO. And you get it immediately. And I found that very difficult to balance because you don't want to have like 0.5% values because there's no immediate feedback for the person playing the game. You can't immediately see that. But if I make it so that you gain charge over time, then I can play with the charge that you get and the duration, meaning that by increasing either one of these, then we can see that change. I've made it so that for the non-spike values, it increases the duration, and for the spike values, it increases the charge. It does not actually make too much of a difference in terms of the overall amount gained. If I get my calculator up, we can see that 8 seconds at 0.7 is 8 times 0.7, 5.6 plus ultra at level 1. And then 0.7 for 10 seconds, don't need a calculator for that, 7%. So 5.6, 7% at level 1 and 3. In the current version of the game, it is 1% and 3%. So that has been immediately buffed. And on the flip side, at level 11, it is now 1 charge for over 12 seconds, giving you a total of 12 charge, which is already greatly nerfed from 20%. So it is buffing the early levels and greatly nerfing the later levels. This is also a trend that we're going to see throughout. So we're buffing the early levels because I want the scaling to feel a lot worse, because I don't want people with PUR costumes to feel greatly superior to those without. That way new players can get some benefits. And also you get something pretty good for fairly low investment. And the scaling for levels 6 to 10 is greatly toned down as well. Like, you will feel some benefit, but it's very small. This is for the people that only care about min-maxing. If you want to be efficient, stop at level 5. But if you want to min-max, which if you've got a PUR costume, that is what you should be considering, min-max. And also, it is a benefit to those who are more dedicated to certain costumes. I don't like the way that they've changed how keys work with Aura. Before, you would have to be very lucky on the gacha, or be very dedicated to get enough Aura on a certain costume. You could show that off, it would be very impressive. But now that is gone, because you can easily unlock anything with keys. Right? You can easily get anything to max Aura. So it no longer feels special. Which is why I would say that if we go to the license, there's a lot of benefits that you get, a lot of keys that you get, 50 keys at level 25 times 2 for having the pro license, and that happens a lot. 100 there, 100 here, 100 here. So that already gives me enough for a full max Aura without needing to put in too much dedication. I just need to complete this license. And I'm giving it. There's a lot that you can get. Here's another 50 over here. Here's another 50 over here. So I would say maybe turn down some of the rewards you get to, for the sake of those that are more dedicated for certain costumes. Just so, you know, it brings out more individuality and preference and the such. And you're not going to be too put behind as long as tuning doesn't have the impact that it once had. Maybe take some of the rewards out, turn down the cost of the license in general so it's a bit more accessible to those that are free to play and new players, or just put in more tickets or something. Also change the gacha, so exchange costume should be worth 50 points. Focus characters, in this case, on this build, rather on this banner, the focus characters are Aizawa and Shinzo. I would put them at 10 points each. So that's currently at 200 and 200, make that 100 and 100. These can be either 200 or 150, don't really care. That's less important. That's a bit of a side tangent, but it all works together, right? It all works together. It would be a better improvement to the system overall. I've gone on long enough. Let's go back to the sheets. Next thing, heat, resist heat. This is a very shit skill because, once again, this is an unfinished mechanic in the game. Heat is very negligible, or burn is very negligible. I also had a concept on how to improve that, which is basically, this is another tangent, called burn intensity. So let's say you have a value between 0 to 300. If you get hit by an attack that applies burn, then that number goes up a bit. If your burn value is between 1 to 100, you're suffering level 1 burn. If it's 101 to 200, you're suffering level 2 burn, and then if it's 201 to 300, you're suffering level 3 burn. And then you take more damage based on that. And also, we can apply that to the way that Strike Derby works as well, because we don't like the way this character works. This is also, in my opinion, one of the worst designed characters in the game. I would change it so he has a special passive buff here, which means that based on his own burn level intensity, he gains more damage. And then you can use Gamma to inflict self-burn, and then you can toggle that, control it better, the way that you like. That is a much better designed character. I hate the way that it works now. This is a terrible designed character. Change it, please. And now, resist heat will have some application. You can make it so that it reduces burn throughout, but that's not how it is now, so I've just done some bullshit values. I'm going to use the same here for resist shock. So if you get shocked by Denki, the current values for resist shock is 5 at max level and 70 at level 1. So I've just turned it down, 40 at level 1. First few levels are going to be kind of free. So up to level 3 is 30. This is 25, 20, and these levels, you know, for the sake of min-maxing, it's only 1 second earlier per level, and a max level 10. Don't worry too much about the exact balance. I'm not interested in giving balance. I think, in my opinion, the best way to do balance is to make it a long process where you can trial everything, and then you can change values over time. Do not focus on the balance in these skills. Just focus on the general direction, please. I've tried to make it some reasonable level of balance just because I don't want to have those conversations, but please remember that it doesn't matter. Exact balance doesn't matter, only the general direction, only the design. Willpower, which is the Kirishima skill, which means leaves you at 1 HP after a fatal attack. This skill is a little bit bugged. For whatever reason, it doesn't activate if you're already at 1 health. It just won't work. If you have shield and you go to 1 health through burn damage, it also activates, but essentially nothing happens. It just goes on cooldown and it sucks. But this skill in the game currently is only good at these higher or reduced cooldowns. These ones are effectively, you get it once per game, and it's the exact same. So like, all of these are the same. It doesn't matter what cooldown you put on it, they're too high, you only get 1 activation per game. And then these ones are, you can get several. These are actually reasonable. So, first priority, make it so that you can activate multiple times per game regardless. And it is actually the same, 60 seconds, 1 minute. I've left this at the same, because I don't really care. It's probably fine, 1 minute cooldown. Next is Revenge Strike. Increases your attack power for a set amount of time after your guard breaks. Essentially, it gives you a red card buff, which is a 1.1 increase in damage every time your guard breaks, and the duration. I have modified it in my sheet so that okay, Darby is talking to me. This is why I was on this menu, because I don't want people talking to me. Ugh. So in my sheet, I've made it so that there are 2 variables, one that affects duration and one that affects the attack buff. 1.1 is what it is currently, regardless of level. In other words, 10% increase. I've made it so this is exclusively at level 11 because I feel like it should be weaker than a red card. Because a red card is something that you intentionally apply, and that should be better than something that is automatic. IMO. And one of the benefits of it is that you can stack it anyway. If you stack 2 red cards, you get a 21% increase in attack, and so having a 3rd red card, because you only have 2 slots normally, will give you, in my calculator, 1.1 times 1.1 times 1.1, 1.331 multiplier. In other words, about a 33% increase. So duration goes up per level. Again, only a 5-second difference between level 1 and level 11. So it's not actually that bad, but we can see the scaling. We can see how it goes. Next is Speedy Self-Revive. This skill kind of sucks. So at level 1, it takes 1 second off. So it's 19 seconds. At level 11, 11 seconds off. So it is then 9 seconds. Skill kind of sucks because no one plans to die. But I've tuned it down anyway, so now it goes from 6 seconds off to 12 seconds off. But again, these first levels are going to usually be kind of free. So focus on level 4 and 5 where you can. Maybe 3, 4, 5. 7 seconds off, 8 seconds off, 9 seconds off. And then level 10 is 10 seconds off. So this is actually very small, but I think the small milliseconds, small fractions of seconds do matter a lot in these situations. But you get a lot of the benefits without needing to cash out. Next is P Power Intensify. The reason why this skill sucks is because it cuts your timer in half at max level. Even worse at earlier levels. 3.5 seconds of Plus Ultra is absolutely useless. You can basically get off one attack in that time. It's just useless. So first thing is greatly reduce that. I feel like even 10 seconds is too much. So I've really toned it back. So now it is a reduction of 8 seconds at level 1 to 6 seconds at level 11. I've also changed the multiplier on the damage. Instead of being 1.5 at all levels, it is now ends at 1.4, which is to compensate for the reduction time. And also, I want to create space to pave the way for new skills in the future, such as instead of giving you a greater attack damage, it could give you like cooldown. You could get a buff that increases your defense, things like that. There's more room to play with. So tone it down so you can stack it with something else, because remember, you always get 2 special slots. Transflow is the newest added one to the game, which is the Shinso one, which basically gives you the effect of his gamma. And it is actually a fairly well-designed tuning skill, in my opinion, because it no longer... for other skills, you would expect it to be about the duration. The duration is static. The only thing it changes is the cooldown. 60 seconds at level 1 to 10 seconds at level 11. 60 seconds is not actually that bad. That's actually kind of cool. So this is actually one of the better design tuning skills, and of course it's because it's one of the later reduced ones. They have more time to think about it in terms of the context of the system. They know what is a reasonable tuning skill now. But for the sake of consistency, I've nerfed it as well. So now it's only 30 seconds, but it still is 10 seconds at max. And also duration. Finally, Booming PU Voice. This is not a great skill normally, but it's a 1.5 seconds stun, so that they can't move in that time. I've also made that one of the variables, going from half that time all the way up to the normal time. You have to be level 11, and I think, in my opinion, the stun is the most important part of this skill, because it can open up to a combo opportunity. And then the deafness duration doesn't need to be much longer than 10 seconds, because look at this. It is 12 seconds at max. It doesn't matter. You use it for the stun effect. You won't use it for the deafness. The deaf is just annoying. It doesn't really provide much strategic advantage. Kind of a mess skill. So next, let's go on to rapid. Not similar to crushing PU. I've made it so that you get the you don't get the charge over time. It's just given to you immediately. And I've also changed the duration of the wall run, because I feel like it's a combat-based skill. You don't need to feel like a full minute of it. That's just kind of ridiculous because you get 50 seconds at max level. You don't need that much. 30 seconds is fine. It's a combat skill. And also, I think, in my opinion, you should be using it for the added PU bonus you get. Maybe combo with crushing PU. The wall run is just an added benefit. So we don't need to worry about it too much. And it is a 5% static increase at all levels. I've made it 2% at level 1 to 5% at level 11. Which is regardless of level, like 5 isn't much. It's kind of nice, but if you wanted more PU, you'd always go crushing PU. You can toggle these, you can change these variables however you like. Again, I don't care about the balance. It's just about it's just the design, the general design that is important to me. Revenge Rapid is when your guard is broken, you get a blue card. It has 1.2 here, don't lie. This is a lie. It is actually 1.1, which is the exact same as a regular rapid card. You get a 10% increase in speed, not 20%. So maybe this is a bug because it's just copying the effect from a rapid card rather than using this. So maybe you consider that bugged. I think that, in my opinion, for this skill to make sense, having a burst of speed is the most important thing you want. I don't care about the wall run. This is not important. If you want wall run, go wall runner. Go for this skill. You do not use this skill for wall run. Use it for the speed. Which is why, in my design, I have made it so that duration is nerfed, but the speed that you get from it is greatly improved. So it's about quickly getting out of that situation. Quick burst of speed to escape. So now, Wall Runner. This is a good skill in the game currently, and it is difficult to nerf. But the way I thought about it is that at level 11, you're going to get it for the entire game. Level 10 is also probably for the entire game. And for the early levels, it is not worth even doing because you get absolutely no benefit from it. It's just not enough. So I would, in my design, I've said, you get it for a good chunk of the game at level 1. Even at level 4, before crossplay, this is how long a game would last in total. At level 4, you will get it for the entire game. But the higher levels are mostly about endgame skills. 1325 it lines up with the final round, meaning that the circle has just reached its final location. The only thing next is for it to shrink. So in that time, you lose the skill. And 1215 is like the circle before it. So it's before the circle has moved to its final spot. That way, if you're going to have these endgame situations, getting level 11 is worth it. I want to make sure that level 11 feels distinct enough all the time. So whenever you're choosing your build, you want to care about which side is it on. Is it left slot or right slot? I want people to be thinking about these when they're choosing the build that they want. Because in some builds, the left slot is the yellow one. Whoops. The left slot is the yellow one, the right slot is the green one. If you want to go for a Sicily build, you want it to be on the right one, making this costume a bit less superior to something that has it on the right one. Manley doesn't have particularly great options. Let me find a good example. She doesn't have a single hero yellow on the right side, so you are forced to use it, I guess. But if I go to Momo, it's the exact same combination on this skill, but now we do have yellow on the right. It matters. That's what my point is. I want it to matter. Next, let's go to Camouflage. This is kind of a mess skill. 10 seconds is too long, too short. I mean, 60 seconds, probably too long. No one's going to be running the skill anyway, but I've made it go from 12 to 30. So again, jumps. The most important ones are these levels here. In some cases, I've made it like 2 between each level. In some cases, I've made it so that the spikes at these skills are significantly higher than these ones. I'm just kind of playing with what I've got. Maybe if these are 1 second each, this is 2 seconds each, you could play with it a bit more. You could make it so like this is 8, 9, 10, and these like 25, 24.5, 24, 23.5, 23, 22.5. That's an example of being more consistent. I don't really care. That's not important to me. Next, we're going to go to GP Sucker. So this is a very powerful skill in the game currently, where you can get up to 125 shield. That is half of your shield just for getting it down. That is extremely powerful in my opinion. So I've nerfed that one a lot. So it is level 8. At level 11, you get to 80, and it's 45 at level 1. Again, what's important is you get it to level 3 or 4 or even 5. So even at level 4, that's only 20 less. So I've nerfed it quite a bit because I feel like that's a bit more balanced. 125, that's just too much, man. This one, word that's hard to say. Let's say croissant permeation. This is not very interesting to me, in my opinion. From 6 to 30, you are invincible after the battle starts. This is a very small amount of time. Maybe it's a better way of doing it. I made it 12 to 30. Don't really care. Card duplication. There is actually a change I would like to make here, which is instead of, if we go to this, for a set amount of time after the battle begins, increases the number of level up cards opponents dropped when they get KO. So they will get, when you KO someone, they will drop an additional 2 cards. I will change it so that enemies drop 1 more level card on KO or assist. I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, so if you get a KO on someone or even assist, they only drop 1 card extra, but you can stack it with your teammates. If everyone's running card duplication, then you can, and if you beat someone together as a team, then they'll drop an additional 3 cards. I think that's a better design. This is generally a early game skill. So I've nerfed it at the later parts of the game. So it is, you definitely only really care for it in the early game. This is a good chunk of the game already at level 4 and 5. That's how I've designed it. And finally, we're going to look at perception. I'm not sure if this is cut off. I think it absolutely is. I'm going to move this real quick. Perception is the Hawk skill. Perception allows you to see the location of opponents you hit with a melee attack for a set amount of time. 6 to 30. I've changed it from 12 to 20. It's not that different, but again, buff the early, nerf the late. That's how I've done it. It is very specific in needs, but I feel like that is a good amount of impact it should have. You're not going to need it longer than 20 seconds IMO. 20 seconds is fine. 20 seconds is plenty. Maybe you can make this 15, just so there's enough difference between. Don't really care. Again, let's move on. So next we're going to go to the support skills. And we are going to go through this list now. Battlefield analysis shows the location of the next safe area. This is one of the worst skills in the game currently because unless this community gets especially competitive, no one's going to really need that information. Currently, the state of the game is just play whatever's broken. That sucks. But in an ideal world, this would be a really good skill. And I've changed it, so instead of being a timer from the start of the game until it expires and then it's useless, which I don't really like as a general theme, I have made it so that it is now delay based, very similar to Coda Finder. In that, if at level 11, As soon as the next ring will be possible to be shown, it takes 20 seconds for that to appear to you. So in 20 seconds time, you can start thinking about setting up the next ring. And at level 11, it takes a full 1 minute and 10 seconds. So you will still get it. It's not useless at low levels, but you will still need to wait some time. Okay. Next, I had to pause for a moment. Sorry, my throat is absolutely dying. I've been talking for over an hour. I'm gonna try to wrap this up as soon as I can. Reinforce Revive is the overhaul skill. This is a very powerful skill if your characters such as Froppy, Ibarra, Cementos. You absolutely want to have this because you get a massive amount of GP. That's a full shield. I think that's ridiculous. But I've nerfed it. 100 at max, 55 at level 1. That seems a lot more fair. It's nice that you get some GP back. In my opinion, I would change these characters so that instant revives are gone from the game. At best, you're just providing them protection so you can revive them later, so that they don't get just destroyed. I think that's better design. I don't like instant revives. Either wait out the timer so that speedy self-revive is more relevant, or something like Kurogiri. That is a better design of a revive skill because it takes them out of the fight. Next is Compression Magic. This is a doozy. This is a really difficult skill to rebalance because essentially as your cap on full support drinks increases, the less useful it becomes at later levels. So at level 1, you get an additional, think of it in terms of this. That is double the amount that you used to have. And at level 3, it is a bit more than double. Level 4, that is double again. But you will never hold 15 full support drinks at once. That's never going to happen. That's not realistic. So I've changed the way that it works entirely to affect a whole range of different items. So full heal is still 2 at max. I think generally the full heals, there should be less in the game. I think they are very powerful and that's not necessarily a good thing. Just reduce them from the loot, from the floor loot. If you want one, go to a box. One of the big boxes that drop around. Make sure that they're a bit more contested, more valuable. And also Momo as well. I don't know what to do. I think Momo's bag should have an increased item pool. I digress. But there is a lot more benefits you can get from... Okay, so 2 here means 3 total. A team HP and team GP makes it more valuable if you're going for civilians. Small HP, small GP, you can just hold a bit more. That's just convenience. They recently, in this last patch, increased the amount of small GP you can actually hold. And then at level 11, the benefit is max GP. If you've noticed, for skills with multiple parameters, I have made the number red, so it is easier to see what has increased. So large GP means that this is better than large HP because storm camping is already a problem. Maybe you could make a change like you get reduced healing outside of zone. But I think large GP is better for balance purposes because we don't need people with enough full heals to large HP drinks to zone camp forever. We don't need that in the game. Next is Revenge Support. This is the Cementos one. Again, it's just a support card. I've changed it so that the earlier levels on this skill, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, you get healed once per second. Having half numbers isn't any good to anyone. I mentioned this in the Shigaraki video. The way that the healing works is that it doesn't heal you on the last tick, on the last second. But if you get that extra little bit, anything over 3 seconds, for example. So even 3.1 would give you 1 extra tick of healing. So 3.5 is essentially you get free healing, free heals, and 3 seconds is essentially only 2 heals. It's 7 health per tick, meaning that you get a total of 14 health healed. Here you'll get a total of 21 healed, and then once you get to level 6, then it starts going up once per second. I've changed it in my sheet so that it is based on, so the heal increase goes up with levels, and the duration also goes up, so it is at minimum 1 per level, with the special levels giving you increased heal, which is a great benefit, meaning that 12 times 9 is 90 plus an extra 18, which is 108. 108 health, in theory. Next, let's go to Divine Protection. This is the Ibarra skill for opening a large box. Again, this is one of those from the start of the game effects. I hate those because it becomes useless very easily. So I would scrap that entirely and make it so that it only affects the speed in which you're opening the box. 0.2 means that you're opening it 5 times faster than normal. At default, it is a 12-second duration. So that means it goes to 12 divided by 5, 2.4. It takes 2.4 seconds to open it. I've changed it so that what matters is the speed in which it happens. I've done it in these values here because they're a bit more linear and easier to read than multiplying in terms of speed of actually doing it. It just makes more sense, don't worry about it. So 0.6, 12 times 0.6, oops, 12 times 0.6, 7.2. That's a reduction, so it's actually taking 7.2 off. So 12 minus 7.2. No, don't worry about that, I'm lying. No, it takes 7.2 seconds instead of 12 at level 1. Meaning this 0.5 means it will take 6 seconds. 0.4 means 12 times 0.4 is 4.8 seconds. And then this would be a quarter of it, meaning 3 seconds at max. Difference between level 10 and 11, 0.35 times 12 is 4.2. So you get it 1.2 seconds faster, which is maybe beneficial. If big boxes are more contested, especially if there is a reduced amount of full team heals, then this would become a more valuable skill, IMO. But again, you can have it at an early level and you would still get good benefit from it. See how all of the proposed changes work together? Next is Warp Heal. This is Kurogiri. We do now have both sub-effects listed. So for a small heal, you get 25 health. With a big heal, you get 80 health. Again, this is a from the start of the battle duration thing. I don't like that generally as an idea. So move this over again. I've made it so that in level, for each level, it increases the amount given, with the big heals getting a bigger increase at these certain levels, because I think the larger burst is generally more useful. Smaller burst is not that useful. And 30 and 80 are currently it's 25 and 80, so you get full value, but you have to get to level 11 to get that. And 30 is actually a bit better because, again, as I say, small heals, that small burst is not very useful, so we can make it a little bit better. Why not? Let's be nice. And again, if you get to level 3, that's already 25. That's already how it is normally. Next, let's go to Assault. Speedy Civilian Rescue. You just, for this, again, this is one of her skills from the start of the game. It increases the speed. I mean, it is a duration that the effect the skill isn't affected for. Again, I don't like it. Just affects the actual speed that you're doing it at. This is how it works for Ibarra. I've just copy pasted the values. That just seemed like the easiest way to do it. Next is Indestructible. The way that this skill works, I'm skipping over this one because it's unreleased. I don't even know how it works. I can't balance that. Indestructible. When you KO an opponent, it allows you to resist flinching from your opponent's attacks for a set amount of time. You get super armor for KOing someone. I think the prerequisite of KO doesn't make sense. 5 to 15 seconds. I've changed it so it is a guard break. If your guard is broken, it makes it easier for you to escape. That's what I've gone for. And I've made it 5 to 12. What is it normally? It's 5 to 15. So I've nerfed it at a high level as well. So you can't just always run away forever. Maybe you could reduce this even further. Make it like 8 seconds, for example. I don't know. Again, not interested in the balance. It's just the general design. If you have any ideas on specific balance, please let me know. But know that is not the point of this video. Symbol of Peace. I've made it so that... Let me just go over what Symbol of Peace is now. You get a certain amount of plus ultra at the start of the game, ranging from 3% up to 60%, which is a massive leap. I've made it so that, similar to crushing PU, you get all of that PU charge over time. And depending on level is the duration you get it for, and these levels, it's the rate per second. I've also included what that works out to. So at max, you still get 60 seconds. Getting it per second is a nicer benefit because it means you don't have to wait as long to get the full amount. You could increase this duration if you wanted. You could double each of these values. So at 5 minutes, you'll still get to 60 seconds, but maybe it's not as useless in the late game anymore. Especially if you die and get revived, then the skill could potentially still be in effect. And that might be a quality of life change. I don't know. Oop. Embrittlement is the next thing on the list. If you melee someone, then they take more damage. I want to change this to be more support oriented. This sub effect is wrong. It is a duplicate of Shigaraki's special action, which is about roughly a 1.2, so 20% increase. I feel like that should be unique to Shigaraki. Also, remember that a strike card is only 1.1. That is significantly better than a strike card. So I've changed it. It's still stronger than a strike card. Well, I mean, it's exactly the same as a strike card here. If you get into melee range, maybe that's a benefit. Maybe you should reduce it even further. Again, not too interested in that. But I've made it scale on the special levels and the duration. Again, I think it should be better designed as a bit more of a support skill rather than a selfish skill, just to get more damage out. Sisterly Disposition. This is the big one right now in the current state of the game because it reduces the amount of damage you take by half. I have made it so that at best you're getting the effects of an assault card. 0.8, 20% increase in defense. That's the exact same as a support card. I've got the wrong one highlighted. This is Sisterly Disposition over here. And even here is a 10% increase. And the duration, I feel like a defense skill should have a reasonable, like a good amount of duration already, because unlike a strike card, you can't choose the times that you get hit. With a strike card, you can choose the time you hit someone. With a defense buff, only they can decide. So I think having more duration is better in that case. Because you don't know what's going to happen. So it starts at 10 seconds, ends at 14. In here, it starts at 5 seconds, ends at 30. 14 seconds is level 6. So that's now the max. And Revenge Assault is exactly the same. Exact same skill, difference is the prerequisite. So this Revenge Assault is when your guard breaks. Sisterly Disposition is for landing a melee hit. That's it. Otherwise, same skill, same benefit. You could maybe stack it, as well as stack it with your yellow cards. There's the big damage reduction that you wanted. Now you can be the super tank you've always dreamed of being, but now it's not absurdly broken on one skill. Next, finally, Technical. Resist Cold, cancels freezing effects immediately. This is very matchup dependent, and I quite like it as it is. But of course, I've nerfed it. High levels. 10 seconds, actually, yeah, no, it was 5 seconds before, now it's 10 seconds. At worst, it's 45 seconds, which is, it was 70 seconds at level 1. There's not really too much you can do to this skill. I've just made it a bit more in line with everything else I've been doing. I feel like being permanently resistant to ice is, don't know, don't care. Electrification! This is the Tech Denki one. This is maybe a controversial skill because it could be like do a lot of things. I think the most important thing you could do balance-wise is change the mechanics of this skill. 0.8%. 0.8 is the duration of the stun. I can't remember what I've done here. I probably should have made it also change the duration. I don't care. Maybe you can make it from 0.6 to 0.8, something like that, and then you can play with the duration of it. I would probably do that again. I'm not changing it now. Just pretend it is also maybe in line with that. I don't know. High speed replenishment. This is the bugged one I talked about earlier. Again, it's a start of the game effect. I think that sucks as a design idea, so again, I've made it speed based. So now at max level, you still get that juicy double speed. 0.6, if I type into a calculator to get to reverse, it is 1 divided by 0.6 is essentially a 1 2/3 multiplier. 1 divided by 0.8, 1.25 multiplier. Which is still, you know, it's like decent. Again, it's the 0.75, 0.7, 0.65. These are the important ones, especially 0.65. That's not too far off the 0.6. 1 divided by 0.65, that becomes a roughly 1.53 multiplier. It's pretty nice. Next is special attack reload boost. Odd name. It gives you 5 times reload speed on your special action. So I decided to look at the duration, 5 to 20. I've made it so it is 10 to 14. So buffed at early levels, nerfed at late, and I've also changed the multiplier, just so it feels a bit more impactful as you level it up at certain key levels. Revenge technical. Guard break means you get tech card. Similar to the other revenge skills, I've changed the amount that increases your reload speed as well as the duration. Again, similar to the assault ones, I think having it for a longer period of time is what you want. 12 to 16, so you're always getting a good chunk with the amount going up at the special levels. HP Sucker. This was not hit as hard as GP Sucker. So it's still at 125 max. I've actually kept that the same. But you get 85 at level 1 instead of 50. People have far more than 250 health. I think you should be able to get a bit more value out of it. At least it's not as impactful as GP Sucker, because remember, you always take GP damage first and then HP damage unless it's burn. But generally, you would lose a lot of value on HP Sucker if you still have a bit of shield. But in the case of GP Sucker, as long as you've taken any damage, you're going to get some value out of GP Sucker. And finally, final skill in the game, Spiraling Leap. I don't have much to say about this one because, I mean, it's a mess skill already. Gives you Nether Race Jump from the time that the battle begins. I have just copy and pasted the values from Wall Runner. So it is not useless at early levels, but it's more impacted at the later levels. Okay? That's every special skill in the game, minus the unreleased one. I've talked for a very long time. I hope that you've enjoyed listening to my voice for a very long time. I'm going to have to end it there. Please, again, do not take the exact balance too seriously. What matters is the general design of it. I'll put timestamps if you want to find your favorite one. If you want to see my thoughts on very specific skills. Thankfully, YouTube has chapters. It's very nice. My voice is so dead right now. I really hope that it gets improved in the near future. I think having this out this early into the season is important because there's a while until the next season. I would like people thinking about how to improve it now and see who agrees with me. So any feedback you have, put it in the comments. If you like this video and it is a long one, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm also hopefully going to be streaming on Twitch a bit more in the future, especially now crossplay is here. I feel like we can do a lot more with that. Probably not today because my voice is very dead. And I'm going to go now. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Goodbye.